The alien abduction of Kelly Cahill is unique in the history of abductions because, as discovered much later, others had been abducted at the very same time and their independent accounts were near identical. She came forward, the others didn't. Let's explore. Hi everyone, and welcome to Project Bluebook, where we explore all things unidentified. I am Thor, and thanks for tuning in. It happened shortly after sundown on August 7th, 1993, when 27-year-old Kelly Cahill was driving to a friend's house near Umumering Creek, Victoria, Australia, not too far away from Melbourne, with her husband Andrew and 3 children, when suddenly their lives were changed forever. They first noticed lights in the sky at a low altitude, straight ahead. It was hovering in the sky a couple of 100 feet above the road they were traveling, emitting different colored light beams onto the surface of the road. And when staring at them, Kelly realized they were attached to a round-shaped craft that had windows, close enough for Kelly to see beings inside, staring back at them.
It appeared like there was silhouettes standing in these round orange circles, like people, but you could only see the black outline. Well, I just said to my husband, look, there's people in there. And the minute I said that, it shot off to the left of us. Within 1 or 2 seconds, it was gone completely.
As Kelly began screaming in gut reaction to what she was witnessing, the craft disappeared. In a split second, it was gone. They continued driving, still in shock. When they came upon a light even brighter than before, they had to make a decision to stop or continue driving, and they did. The next thing Kelly remembers was a sense of calm coming over her. Within what seemed only to be a second or two, everything had turned into night again. She asked her husband if she had blacked out. He did not answer her, but silently kept staring straight ahead as he continued driving. Later in the morning, on their way home, Kelly could smell a foul odor emanating from their clothes, like the smell of vomit. She felt something wasn't right about their drive. Something was missing, yet she remembered nothing. As she went to bed, she noticed triangular marks near her navel, a mark that definitely wasn't there before. It was symmetrical. She fell asleep and woke up nauseated and feeling a general sense of fatigue, like she had a mild flu. As these symptoms lasted for days, she ended up going to the hospital twice over several weeks that followed. Unaided by any outside influence, medical diagnosis, or hypnosis, Kelly began remembering more and more. She recalled they saw an object hovering off the road in a different place than she had first thought. It was hovering over a gully in the landscape, and it was big, perhaps more than 150 feet in diameter, bigger than a small house, and round in shape. She also remembered that they had stopped, and she and her husband had gotten out of the car to walk towards the massive craft. And to her recollection, they weren't afraid in that moment at all. She also felt they were being drawn to it, involuntarily.
We stood here, I guess side by side, my husband and I, for about 30 to 45 seconds. Then this tall dark being just appeared in front of the craft, and he was followed by about another 7 or 8 that appeared straight behind him. I felt this energy go through me. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. It was like some sort of low-level frequency that came in waves.
She remembered seeing another car stopped down the road, and a person standing on the road, just like them, staring at the craft as well. Then they saw a being, unlike anything they had ever seen or imagined. It had no color at all, like a silhouette, void of any detail. The shape of a being was about 7 feet tall, and the only discernible feature were its eyes, glowing red in the midst of its dark complexion. Adjusting to what she was seeing, she later recalled there were actually a bunch of those dark beings on the ground below the craft. Like dozens, heaps of them, she would later state, congregating in groups, and one of these groups floated towards Kelly and her husband. They didn't walk, she said, they floated.
The eyes on these things lit up and they came charging across the field. Halfway across, they split up into two groups. Some headed off down there and the rest came directly towards us. I felt this blow to my stomach, and the next thing you know, I'm back here somewhere on the grass. It literally lifted me off my feet.
Let's stop for a moment for a couple of corroborating comparisons. Sightings of dark beings have been noted, including surrounding the collapse of the Point Pleasant Bridge on the Ohio River in 1967, where 46 people lost their lives. A dark being with wings, void of detail, but red glowing eyes, was seen by multiple eyewitnesses. And way back in 1928 in Leicester, England, several villagers saw a 7-foot-tall being on the outskirts of town, void of any color, dark as night, except for its glowing red eyes. Charles J. Hall describes tall blonde aliens at the Mojave Valley gunnery range floating across the desert landscape. And during the abduction at Pascagoula, Parker and Hickson described robotic beings hovering towards them as if they were floating. Those are known and repeatable features, witnessed over and over again, including red glowing eyes and the hovering above ground. As the group approached her, Kelly noticed another group approaching the other car, and she felt a sense of evil. Her fear caused her to start screaming uncontrollably, and that's when she lost consciousness and memory, that she regained only when she was sitting back in her car in total darkness and silence that included her husband and children, all just staring straight ahead, completely emotionless. Memory flashes would later reveal moments like that of the beings leaning over her navel, poking her, as if extracting energy from her body. Something went on regarding her body she did not understand. She felt she was being mind-controlled while experiencing a paralysis of her body, consistent among abductees as described by Bud Hopkins in his books Intruders and Missing Time. And of course, missing time is itself a consistent theme as well. The time of an abduction to the time of return to your place of abduction, based on available data, lasts anywhere between a few minutes and a few days, as was the case with Travis Walton, with many accounting for a loss of time lasting between 1 and 3 hours, like that of Betty and Barney Hill and Filiberto Cardenas. Kelly has undergone hypnosis to recall more detail, resulting in her ability to draw pictures that she claims are exact depictions of what she saw. Through hypnosis, she recalls believing they were evil and that they were going to kill her and that they have no souls. She has corroborated with UFO investigators, including with Australian ufologist Bill Chalker, who handed the research lead over to the Phenomena Research Australian Group, or PRA for short, whose director, John O'Cheadle, put an ad in a local newspaper near the abduction site that resulted in the second abductee coming forward, the one in the other car, also a woman. The anonymous abduction experiencer, call her Jane, too had markings near her navel area, and she additionally described being strapped to an examination table and being poked with instruments, an experience we are by now all too familiar with. As a result of the advertisement, a third party later came forward, a local lawyer, anonymously nicknamed Glenda. Kelly never met her fellow abduction experiencers, but their stories corroborate one another, including 3 independent drawings of the craft and another set of the beings made by Kelly and the 2 other eyewitnesses. They are all near identical. The PRA group conducted research, gathered interviews data from Kelly, Jane, and Glenda, that included their hypnosis, and they conducted field investigation of Umamarin Creek. Kelly Cahill published her own book in 1996 under the title Encounter. Between 1996 and 1998, Kelly provided several television interviews and became quite visible in the UFO conference circles. Let's hear Kelly Cahill in her own voice again.
I found a small red-coloured equilateral triangle underneath my navel, which I guess in reality provoked only a minor curiosity at the time. It was oddly geometric, and I did wonder, how something like that could get on me that looked like a burn without me feeling it. I felt this energy go through me. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. It was like some sort of low-level frequency that came in waves, but it was so dense that I could actually physically feel it going through my body. And that feeling absolutely terrified me. It was like, I can't even explain the horror that I felt just feeling this. And I began screaming.
Since then, she has chosen to disappear from the scene. Partly due to the intrusion of privacy the publicity caused, but also partly because skeptics preyed on her due to the corroborating witnesses never being identified. The PRA group refused to disclose their identities, and even further, Kelly's now ex-husband, Andrew Cahill, her fellow experiencer, refused to comment on the validity of Kelly's account. She was left out there exposed without support. A 300-page research report promised by the PRA group is yet to be published. What satisfies my position of Kelly being truthful about her experiences is how she provided an account in increasing detail immediately as memory came back to her. Following the experience, the marks on her body were documented by independent third parties. She wrote the book within 3 years of the event and never changed her story ever since. The parallels between her account and countless others, regardless of the corroborating co-experiencer's account, are consistent the world over. The arc of her story is this. She began raising the awareness of her experiences immediately when she could, to a point of losing her husband, marriage, and family. Upon learning of her eyewitnesses, she was emboldened and conducted TV interviews, anticipating the corroboration of the other witnesses coming forward. When they never did, she realized she was alone on this, that no one else would corroborate her account, including her ex-husband. That's when she decided to disappear. In 1998, 5 years after the event, and 3 years to the date from her own book publishing. It is the true and sad account of too many experiences, burned by their experience twice. First by the alien abductors, then by the widespread human condition of denial and fear. You can watch and listen to this and other podcasts on Project Bluebook, where we explore all things unidentified. Each day, let's practice compassion and kindness. Please subscribe and please share a link to this channel as well. I am Thor, and thanks for tuning in. See you next time.